What's up, guys? I'm nobody special. Another day, another all-time high in the stock market. Seems like stocks only ever go up and to the right, no matter what, right? Supply chain's broken, stuff isn't moving, stocks go up. Energy prices spiking, stocks go up. Inflation scare, stocks go up. Fed tapering on the horizon, stocks go up. Imminent collapse of the Chinese economy, stocks go up. You know, this is starting to remind me an awful lot of the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020. And I remember thinking to myself in the fall of 2019, this is a period of peak prosperity. Unemployment was at an all-time low. The economy was growing. It seemed like everything was going well. So why all of a sudden did the Federal Reserve start printing money and injecting it into the banking system after the repo madness scare? It made no sense to me. And I didn't really know all that much about the workings of the bond market at the time. I'm still no expert on it, but I knew enough to know something is seriously, systemically wrong with the economy. And the more I read about it, the more I had realized that this decade of super low, near zero interest rates had caused this freakishly large amount of debt and malinvestment in the US economy. You see, when money is cheap, and that's what interest rates are the price of money. Well, when money is cheap, you get bad investments, and bad investments need to be allowed to die, right? Think of recessions as the forest fires, the brush fires that keep the ecosystem healthy. And by keeping these interest rates so low and by pumping money into the system, we have allowed all of this dead growth in the economy on the forest floor to pile up. And we are way overdue for a forest fire. I remember thinking in January of 2020, as stocks just kept going up every day, making all-time highs, something's wrong here. We've got this debt problem. And then I start to see problems coming out of China. I start to see videos of people just dropping in the streets. I see videos of people being welded inside their apartments, the apartment buildings just being welded shut with people inside. Videos of these guys rolling down the street with these carts that were spraying what looked like chlorine gas into the air. And still, stocks made all-time highs. Even after the full lockdown in Wuhan, when it became so obvious that there was this catastrophe happening in China, and that there was no way they were going to contain it, despite the reassurances of global leaders. Even afterwards, stocks continued to make all-time highs. I remember I finally said, that's it. It has finally reached peak madness. I sold all my stocks, and I actually took out a sizable bet against the S&P 500. I started buying call options in some of these inverse ETFs. Now, a seasoned trader could probably look at what I did and poke a million holes in it, because I want to be careful here not to pass myself off as this expert trader. Definitely not, all right? The reason why I call myself nobody special is because I don't have any formal training in finance, and I don't want to pretend to. I want to be upfront about that. I'm just a guy who reads a lot, okay? But I knew enough that there was something so wrong with this market, and it just making new highs day after day after day, despite what was happening all over the world. It was so obvious. Well, that short in the market ended up doing about 8x for me. It was the best trade of my life. And then the response to that, instead of letting all of these bad businesses that had developed over the years of these low interest rates and all this malinvestment, instead of letting those businesses go under and not survive, which, you know, people were hurting and the economy locked down. I get it that they needed to help people, but all they did was push that problem further out, and they printed trillions of dollars and dumped it into the system and acted like that could solve the problem. Folks, it can't. It just made the problem bigger. It created a new problem, because we still have this problem of a decade of malinvestment, and all of these businesses that should have gone bankrupt years ago that are still afloat because they've been able to access the debt market. They've been able to finance cash burning operations because of access to the debt market. That bill is still due. Now we have the inflation problem too. And now, starting to look an awful lot like January of 2020, we have another problem coming out of China. The obvious collapse of the Chinese housing market, and again, largely being ignored by Western media. And folks, I want you to understand, What's happening to Chinese housing market and the scale of it is massive. The Chinese housing market is a $52 trillion market. $52 trillion worth of real estate in China. And there's 65 million vacant homes or apartments in that country. That is enough vacant buildings to house the entire population of France can fit in the vacant buildings in China. They have 90% home ownership in China, and yet 90% of the real estate transactions over the last few years have been for second and third homes. So riddle me this, if you already have 90% home ownership, and yet 90% of the real estate market is people buying second and third homes, who's living in those second and third homes? Nobody. 10% of the population can't fit in that many houses, can't occupy that many houses. So people are just pumping money into the real estate market in China for years, just expecting the prices to just always go up. And they're bidding up, massively bidding up the values of these apartments and these buildings. They're just sitting there, empty. Nobody lives in them. It's fake demand. That bill is coming due. And now Evergrande and all these developers that are dropping one after the other, it's reality starting to set in the Chinese market. And the Chinese government realized what was going on, and that's why they instituted this 3 red lines policy to limit how much more debt these developers could take on, because the Chinese, too late, realized that they had a massive housing bubble on their hands, and they're trying to slowly deflate it. They'll fail. They're going to pop it. All right? Every time the government gets involved and tries to slowly deflate a bubble, trust me, they pop it. Ask Ben Bernanke with his interest rate hikes in 2005 and 2006 how that went. Did he slowly deflate the housing bubble? Xi Jinping's going to do the same thing Ben Bernanke did. But again, all of these problems, all these systemic weaknesses in the American economy, and then this looming economic catastrophe in China. And keep in mind, there's no way it's going to be contained to China. All the banks are interconnected and interrelated, and all the American companies have operations in China. One way or another, their sales are going to decline. Apple's not going to sell iPhones in China when people's houses lose all their value and the wealth effect takes hold. So don't get caught up in the stock market. Now, I got a CYMIA here, not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice. I'm nobody special. Do your own research, your own DD, arrive at a decision that's right for you based on your unique situation. But I am raising cash. Okay, I am not buying stocks here. Now, there may be certain companies that are a good buy based on some near-term things, but right now, I am raising cash. I'm looking to take profits where I can, and I am looking to develop a sizable cash position for when this crash happens, and it will happen. It's going to be big, and it's going to take everything down with it. Okay, understand, this is not just going to be tech stocks that sell off. Everything is going to sell off. Gold, silver, real estate, it's all going to sell off, even good investments. So again, this isn't financial advice. All I can ever do is tell you what I'm doing. I don't plan on being the guy holding the bag when that sell-off happens. I plan on being the guy who sold close to the top. Maybe he didn't time the top. Nobody times the top perfectly, right? We could keep going up to all-time highs for another 3, 4, 6 months, even a year. All right, but I got out before the crash. I'll be the guy that got out before the crash, and I'll be the guy that got back in probably sometime before the bottom. I'm not a perfect market timer. I'll never get it right. But right now, I'm raising cash. I'm definitely not paying these ridiculous valuations for these stock prices. Not with the supply chain, the inflation problems, the debt problems here in the States, and not with this obvious economic catastrophe that is coming out of China, that the Chinese would like to assure you they have under control. Trust me, they don't. Problems that big are not brought under control by a 3 red lines policy. Anyways, folks, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell. It really helps me out. Until next time, live small and dream big.